Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be going over 10 cars for cruising in Grand Theft Auto Online that I think are really good. Obviously this is for cruising around in free mode, maybe a private session, maybe a public session. Probably not a public session if you want to live, but if you want to just drive a nice car around and have some fun and just chill, these are some very good cars to cruise around in. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started with number 10. At number 10 we have the Lampadati Felon GT, coming in at $95,000. So this is a car that you can steal off the street and keep in your garage. I'm sure many of you will probably know the Felon GT, especially if you're an older player. This is one of the most common cars to steal off of the street and sell at Los Santos Customs because it is actually the most expensive car that you can sell at Los Santos Customs, giving you $9,500 when you actually sell it. Now the reason that I put the Felon GT on here is because it's a convertible, and I've always felt like the Felon GT is such an underrated car in GTA Online. I think it looks so good with the top down. Obviously it is a convertible. With the top up, with the soft top, it's not the best looking car ever, but with the top down, I think that it looks absolutely fantastic. It has great handling, and I would say that is its standout feature. The acceleration is decent, the top speed's okay, but it's mostly about the handling and the overall look of the car. I think that it's a great vehicle. Definitely a budget-friendly option. Obviously, being able to steal it for free is, pretty good. And upgrading it is always a good thing to do because the Felon definitely gets some good performance out of it once you have all of those modifications on the car. So that's it for number 10. On to number 9. At number 9 we have the Uberwalk Cipher, coming in at $1.2 million if you have the trade price, and $1,550,000 if you do not have the trade price. The Uberwalk Cipher was added with the Tuners DLC, so this is a Tuners subclass vehicle that you can use for the Tuners races. It has so much customization, obviously from the Tuners DLC, all the cars have a lot of customization, but the Cipher has a lot that you can do to it. You can make this thing look super good, and the performance of the vehicle is very nice. I would say that it has a very slight understeer issue, but I don't even know if I'd go as far as to call it an issue. It's just how the car handles. I think it actually handles really well most of the time, but it does tend to kind of understeer a little bit. The acceleration is pretty good, and the top speed is also pretty decent. I personally love to use this car for the Tuners races. I think that it's so good. I think that it's honestly one of the best cars to use in those races. And with all the customization that you can do to it, you can make this thing look super unique, and it's a very fun car to cruise around in. At number 8, we have the Dubachi Masakra, coming in at $275,000. This is a pretty OG car. I think it was added with the High Life update if I'm not mistaken, and it's a very nice car to drive. For $275K, you absolutely cannot go wrong with a Masakra. There is the race car version of this thing as well, but it has the exact same customization with just ever so slightly better performance, but I think the regular Masakra looks a little bit better. It has a lot of racing modifications that you can apply to it that actually kind of improve the overall handling of the car, I would say, but it's not much to improve upon because the handling is already absolutely fantastic on the Masakra, as well as the acceleration and the top speed for its price range. Definitely one of the best looking cars in all of Grand Theft Auto Online in my opinion, and it certainly is a great one to cruise around in free mode. Next up at number 7, we have the Truffade Nero, coming in at $1.4 million or $1,440,000 if you want the true price of it. Now, if you're looking on Legendary Motorsport, you're not going to find this thing because it's actually only available to be purchased on the Benny's website, and that is because you can of course make the Truffade Nero into the Truffade Nero Custom. However, we're talking about the Nero in this video. It's got a little bit of customization, and overall it's a pretty sleek looking vehicle. It is of course based off of the Bugatti Chiron in real life, which is an absolutely fantastic car. The Nero Custom is more of a racing version, so if you did ever get bored of the regular Nero, you can of course upgrade it into the Custom and have some more fun with it there, and upgrade it at Benny's, so obviously there's going to be some decent customization. It has great acceleration, a pretty decent top speed, and excellent handling, and it also has an active rear spoiler, which I think is pretty cool. Next up at number 6, we have the Lampadati Furore GT. The Furore GT is a super underrated car in Grand Theft Auto Online. The Furore GT got added with the LTS DLC, I want to say it is, and it retails for $440,000, which is a pretty fair price, all things considered, for what you get. I remember back in the day, this thing was kind of a ripoff because like the Turismo R was only an extra 60 grand, and it was way better than the Furore, although they are in completely different classes. Now the sad part is the Lampadati Ferrari GT has absolutely no customization, which does completely suck, but it is still a very fun car to drive, and I don't honestly think that it would even benefit from having more customization options. I think it's such a good looking car to begin with that you really don't need to do anything else to it. For 440 grand it accelerates pretty well, has decent handling, and the top speed is okay. I think that it's fantastic looking and it's definitely one to look into. Such a fun car for cruising around. Next up at number 5 we have the Obey 8F Drafter coming in at $718,000. The Obey 8F Drafter is a very interesting car in Grand Theft Auto Online. It shares the sound with the Benefactor Schlagen GT and I also believe the Schafter V12 if I'm not mistaken. So it sounds pretty good. It's also got great performance. The acceleration is really good on this. The handling is a little bit lackluster. It's kind of understeery, but it also works really well at the same time. So really no complaints, but it's just not as great as some of the other cars on this list. But that's not to say it's bad in any way. And the top speed is pretty good too. On top of this, it's also got some good customization and it'll get you from point A to point B relatively quickly if you want to, but of course you can drive it slower and you will still have a very good time in this car because I think that it's so good looking that it doesn't even matter if you're going 10 miles an hour, you're just going to enjoy looking at the car. Definitely a fun one to cruise around in. Let's move on to number 4. At number 4, we have the Invitero Coquette Blackfin coming in at $695,000. The Coquette Blackfin is a topless Corvette with a little bit of customization that you can do to it, and it's available on Legendary Motorsport. The Blackfin is in the muscle category, which is kind of interesting because a lot of the other Coquettes in the game are all in the sports category, so for one to be in the muscle category, it is pretty cool. This of course does mean that you can do a wheelie in it off the line if you hold the handbrake and hold the accelerator and then let go of the handbrake, so that is kind of neat. I think that the Blackfin is a very good looking vehicle and it also is a very good sounding vehicle as well, as I'm sure you guys can hear right now. Overall, the Blackfin is definitely a pretty underrated car for cruising around in Grand Theft Auto Online, and not only for cruising, I think it's just an underrated car in this game, and I wanted to give it some more love by putting it on this list. Hopefully some of you guys are going to go and pick one up. Next up at number 3, we have the Bravado Gauntlet Hellfire. I'm sure you guys probably saw this one coming. $745,000 for one of the most fun vehicles in the entire game. The Hellfire will not allow you to go around a corner without drifting, which is kind of fun, unless you're going at an extremely slow speed. The Hellfire's got some really good customization and it's a great car for getting around the map, especially if you want to have some fun along the way. This is one of the easiest cars to drift in the entire game, although I must say it's not the most controllable drift all the time, but it does drift really easily. And once you get the hang of it, it is actually pretty controllable, I won't lie. It's a great looking car, it has insanely good acceleration and a very good top speed. Like I said, the handling, not the greatest, but not the worst either. Definitely a fun car to drive. I particularly like to drive my Bravado Gauntlet Hellfire up in Blaine County. I think that it kind of fits the scenery more up there, but obviously you can drive it wherever you want. So that's it for the Gauntlet Hellfire and number 3. Let's move on to number 2. At number 2, we have the Benefactor Schlagen GT that I mentioned a little bit ago when I was talking about the Obey 8F Drafter. These two cars do share a sound. Now the Schlagen GT is a little bit more on the expensive side, being the second or third most expensive car on this list, depending on if you have the Uberwalk Cipher's trade price or not. The Schlagen goes for $1.3 million on Legendary Motorsport under the 2-door section. It has a lot of customization that you can do. You can make this thing look like a street car, a pretty basic sort of Mercedes AMG GTS, or of course you can make it look like the full Mercedes AMG GTR, which is pretty awesome to have the ability to do all three of those things. This is another car that's similar to the Hellfire in its drifting ability, I would say. However, the Schlagen is a lot more planted when you want it to be. However, you can swing the tail out very easily by just tapping the handbrake. It has insanely good acceleration, very good handling, I would say, and a pretty decent top speed, and it also sounds absolutely fantastic. And not only all of these things, but I think that this is one of the best looking cars in the entire game. Super realistic looking. It looks just like the Mercedes AMG GTS, which it is based off of. I really don't think that you can go wrong with picking up a Schlagen GT. Definitely one of the cars I recommend getting in this game the absolute most. But of course, now that we're done with the Schlagen GT, it's time to talk about the #1 best car for cruising in Grand Theft Auto Online. Take your guesses right now, and of course, here it is. the Grotti Carbon Air, coming in at $195,000. This is a fan favorite car in Grand Theft Auto Online, and I absolutely understand why. The Carbon Air is a hardtop convertible that's based off of a Ferrari. I think it's primarily based off of the Ferrari California. It was released all the way back in 2013 with Grand Theft Auto, so it's been around for some time, which would kind of line up with the Ferrari California. It's got a little bit of customization. You can put a spoiler on this thing, as well as some exhaust options, but other than that, there's not really much you can do. But you're not buying this car for the customization. You're buying it because it's insanely fun to drive, it sounds great, and it is a hardtop convertible that you can't even really tell is a convertible vehicle unless you see one with the top down and then you see one with the top up. And for $195K, you literally cannot go wrong with this car. It is so much fun. I remember when I first got Grand Theft Auto Online, this is a car that I was striving to get for so long. Believe it or not, $195K was a lot of money to make at one point in this game, and I remember having to save up in order to get this vehicle, and when I got it, I was so happy. I remember driving it around for hours on the Xbox 360, and it was such a good time. It has really good acceleration, pretty decent handling, and okay top speed. It is from 2013. The top speed is a little bit lower. However, it is super fun to drive because it does tend to oversteer quite a lot, and you can do some crazy donuts with this car. Definitely a super fun car, definitely one that I would absolutely recommend everybody who's watching this video to pick up. Such a good car. Anyway guys, there you have it. That is it for the best cars for cruising around in Grand Theft Auto Online. Let me know what you thought of my list in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, dislike if you didn't, of course. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.